Dan Illman here, taking a look at race number 10 at Santa Anita on opening day of their winter meeting, that being Tuesday. It's the Grade 1 La Brea for 3-year-old fillies going 7/8 of a mile. Let's take a peek at this field. These are some fillies with some upside potential, very lightly raced runners that might not have actually hit their best stride just yet. The number 9, Clearly Unhinged, is likely to take money, dropping out of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and she's a horse that usually likes to get close to the pace, which wasn't the case in the Filly and Mare Sprint. We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector. I do agree with Timeform US that the 6 Ice Dancing is going to show high early speed as she makes her second start off a lengthy layoff for trainer Richard Mandella. Clearly Unhinged is going to be close as well, and so is the number 2 Daddy's Ruby, who's taking a gigantic step up in class but has shown high gate speed in most of her starts. Let's start things off with the number 1 Blessed Touch, going out for trainer Tim Yakteen. Draws the inside post for her first start since May, so she's going to have to overcome a lengthy layoff. Her most recent race in May was at Santa Anita. It was a first level allowance for 3-year-old fillies, and I think she caught a speed favoring track that day, and maybe the track worked against her. It would have been nice to have seen her do some running, but it preceded a layoff, so maybe something went physically awry. One of the also-rans from that race did come back to win a first level allowance with a 77 Beyer speed figure. Blessed Touch seems in a bit tough in her first start off the layoff. I want to take a wait-and-see approach. The number 2 is Daddy's Ruby, and we talked about her in the pace projector segment. She has high early speed, as she showed in this race, a first-level allowance at Santa Anita back in late October. She went to the lead, and she looked very strong in the stretch. This was a good-looking performance for Daddy's Ruby, a breakout performance to be sure, and an 87 Beyer speed figure. She has won both of her starts on dirt. She's unbeaten on the main track, and she is going to show speed from post position 2. Now she's going to face a major class test, as she's facing horses that have already competed and competed well against graded stakes competition. The number 3 is Howl, a daughter of Practical Joke, going out for trainer Brad Cox. I was super impressed with her career debut at Keeneland back in October. She prompted 4 wide that day after breaking from an outside post, made a smooth outside bid on the turn, and won in ridden out fashion. After that race, I talked to Brad, and he was thinking La Brea, La Brea, La Brea. He just needed a spot in between, and he decided to run her in the Safely Kept Stakes at Laurel Park, partly because he wanted to see how Howl would do with some shipping. Now, on paper, everyone was expecting Howl to win by multiple lengths that day at 2-5. She did what she had to do to win. She's going to be facing better horses, but I like that they're sticking with the plan and running her in the La Brea. She's well-bred, well-connected, has good tactical speed, and also has a little bit of upside. By the time Howl goes to the post, the second place finisher of the Safely Kept Apple Picker would have already run back. She is competing on Saturday at Laurel Park. The number 4 is Big Pond, and Big Pond ran a solid second last time out in this race. A first level allowance at Del Mar going 6.5 furlongs. I think she was a little bit pace compromised in here. The pace to me didn't seem very fast, and Timeform US has it coded blue, and they sort of agree with me. She ran a good second, and all of her dirt races are fine. It's just that she's another horse, like the 1 Blessed Touch, the 2 Daddy's Ruby, taking a pretty significant step up in class. We know 7/8 of a mile isn't going to be an issue. She won the Fleet Treat in her second lifetime start going 7/8 when she was up close to the pace. I think she'll try to rally from a bit farther out of it this time. The 5 is Royal Spa, and Royal Spa's coming off a win at Churchill Downs for trainer Rudy Brissett, and this was a good performance. She got some pace to run at that day, but she was able to really finish it off. And what I liked about it was her first start off of an April layoff. I wonder if the connections sort of had the La Brea circled for this promising filly ever since she started her return off of the layoff. That last race was a very nice prep. The third place finisher came back to win a second level allowance at Fairgrounds earlier this week. She's going to need a little bit of a Beyer boost, but if the pace is hot, Royal Spa is the kind of filly that can come with a strong kick under Irad Ortiz. Ice Dancing is the number 6, and she is very fast from the stalls. She's also shown the ability to rally from off the pace if necessary. She did that 2 starts back in the graded Santa Ynez going 7/8 of a mile. Now, unfortunately, she had to go to the sidelines after that race, but she returned with a good prep against with some older horses and a second level allowance at Santa Anita on October the 28th. She showed her usual good speed in this race, and she hung on pretty gamely to finish second. Now, I don't think that was the strongest field in the world, but she has the layoff excuse, and I think she can build off of that performance from a fitness standpoint. If they leave her alone on the lead, Ice Dancing can take this field a long, long way. Fast and Shiny's been competing on turf recently, but the last time she raced on the main track, well, she showed it wasn't a problem. Let's watch that first level allowance all the way back in February, going 3/4 of a mile, and Fast and Shiny was quick from the stalls and game in the stretch, and that's a pretty potent combination. She's shown some ability on the turf. Her next start after the race we just showed was a stakes victory going down the hill at Santa Anita, but I don't mind her running back on dirt. She was third behind Ice Dancing in the Santa Inez. She's the kind of filly that can add a bit of pace punch to this race, maybe setting things up for the closers. Fast and Shiny will be making her first start in about 2.5 months. Bangs is the number 8, and she won 2 starts back in her first start for these connections. That was a sprint race, and they tried her last time out in the Zia Park Oaks, going 1 mile and a 16th, a race which has already produced a couple of next out winners, one winning an allowance at Zia with a 74 buyer. I think it was just a situation, maybe from a class standpoint, too much too soon, but maybe from a distance standpoint, a little bit too far. I like Bangs cutting back in distance, but she does have some class questions to answer against this quality field. The 9 Clearly Unhinged might be the horse to beat. She ran so well in the Chillingworth 2 starts back at Santa Anita. It was a race where she was part of a very hot pace, and she got the better of her other pace rivals, only to be run down in the end by a Kirsten Bosch, a strong older runner. Her most recent start was the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and she's the kind of filly that likes to be close to the pace. She didn't get close at all. She took some dirt while down inside, and she really didn't threaten with an even performance. From this outside post position, her rider has plenty of options. I think Clearly Unhinged, if she really wanted the lead, could make it, but I have a feeling they're going to sit outside and in the clear ready to pounce when the field turns for home. Satin Doll completes this field. She was 4th last time out, but again, she was making her first start off of a long, long layoff. She caught a race where there wasn't a lot of pace for her to run at, and she gained fitness. She probably was using that race as a prep for this. She showed some ability when a rallying second behind Ice Dancing in the Santa Inez 3 starts back. She's not the worst long shot to take a stab with, especially if you believe the pace will be fast. Let's take a look at my top picks for the La Brea. I like Clearly Unhinged getting out of the Breeders' Cup, back in with 3-year-olds, and a nice outside trip. I'm expecting her to be closer to the pace this time around. I'm going 9, 2, 3, and 4 in the La Brea. Good luck.